My shamanic teacher, Sandra Ingerman, would often talk about pilgrimage. And she didn't refer to it in terms of when you go to a spiritual or sacred site, or when you go on a retreat or something like that. She would consider any journey a pilgrimage. And that always kind of really stuck with me, because she got me to see the sort of ups and downs, the obstacles, the things you had to overcome, the realizations, the enjoyment. All of it was part of a spiritual enriching of your life. And this trip that I've just been on to the UK has absolutely been a pilgrimage. I am still amazed at how much came up during this time. And that's not to say, I'm going to preface this right now, that I had the most wonderful time with my family. It's always really precious to me to spend time with them, and I'll talk a little more as to why that is, besides the fact that they're obviously my family. But in addition to those wonderful moments, I had quite the dark night of the soul experience, and came out the other side much stronger, much more centered, relieved of a lot of burden. Yeah, one of the things that has been happening is really working on receiving. I've been quite notoriously bad at receiving for a long time in my life. And there's lots of things that played into that, but I can see from compared to last year's journey to here, or even preparing for last year's journey to preparing for this journey and going through it, I can see I've gone through a big shift. And a lot of the childhood stuff around receiving came up. It was one of the areas that I've been working on. For 20 years, I was isolated from my family. For 15 of those years, I never saw them, or very rarely, and I mean exceptionally rarely, I got an email or something like that. For all intents and purposes, my family and I were estranged. And this was not my wish, actually. In the case of my father, there was some stuff going on, but some other stuff, but for the most part, it was because of the abusive relationship I was in. And I was being isolated from my family. And so I never got to celebrate the important things with them. I missed really big occasions, like marriages, like sicknesses, the death of my grandmother. And so I've always felt like there was this catching up to do, or well, there's no way you can make up for those things that I lost, but it added extra value to have these times when I was actually away and I could actually be physically in the same room as my mother or my sister, my grandfather. You know, I've barely seen him in years and years and years, and it was wonderful to catch up. But not only was the separation hard and missing these events, but during this time I wasn't able to celebrate me. I didn't get to celebrate birthdays or Christmases. They kind of weren't allowed because they brought up too much memories for my then husband. And he didn't want that, and so we pretended these things didn't exist, but actually there was a part of me that was really sad that I had to forego that part of myself, because I came from a family that very much liked to celebrate these things and put value on these things. And although at the time when I was younger I may not have valued them as much as I do now, they still meant something to me. And so to go without, it was kind of like shutting off a part of myself for a very long time. And although I'm not like a materialistic person in the sense of, you know, I want lots of presents and I want all the attention on me and all of that, I've come to realize that these things are really important to me. Birthdays, Christmases, big celebrations and stuff, because I know what it's like to go without them for a long time. I know what it's like to miss them. Miss the important ones, the ones you can never get back. You know, I never got to go to my grandmother's funeral. I've not even got to go to her resting place because it's not really that close to my mum. It's a bit hard for her to drive me there. And these things you can't replace them. You can't substitute them. And so all you can do is value what you do have, what you do get to experience, and as a result, it's really been helping me learn to receive, you know, like the tokens that my mum or my sister or whomever might send me. You know, even if it's just a card, even if it's just a message saying happy birthday, it means so much to me now, in a way that so much more than it used to. And so a lot of stuff has been coming up around receiving, around what I missed, what I didn't value that I do now. You know, I really reclaimed my life 4 years ago. It was 4 years the day I actually landed in the UK that I actually left my late husband and I started the process of reclaiming my life. It's also been 3 years since I bought this place, Sunstone Studio, and started making a life for myself here. And so there's been a lot of really important anniversaries here about my rebirth. And it's given me a lot to reflect on how far I've come, the person I used to be, what I would put up with then, what I wouldn't now, you know, what's shifting in me now. And yeah, I can see that I'm also looking at, because my family and seeing the way my family is with me and with every, you know, all the members in the family, I see the traits in me that were nurtured in that environment when I was younger and also now, of course. And I can see how those natural tendencies to nurture, to care, to pour into people, to love, to guide, all of these things, which are good, but I can see how they got taken advantage of in the past, you know, how I gave too much to the wrong people, or people that weren't willing to meet me halfway. And yeah, something about that in particular just feels like it's come to a stopping point. I can really feel myself reclaiming my energy, reclaiming my power. You know, a phrase came to me just in the last, I think, 24 hours about how I don't give my light, I shine it, I radiate it in the hopes to inspire others to radiate their own light. If I give what is mine and nothing is poured back into me, then I will become a dry well and there's nothing more to give. And seeing this give and take dynamic, this how I'm using my energy, this has been really big. I want to say revelation, but it's something that I've been working on for a while, but it feels like it came to a culmination point. It crystallized during this time away, and I can really feel myself, like my energy sitting here, and it's like, no, I'm not going to leak this energy just wherever I go or to whomever, you know, because I'm feeling something difficult, or I'm feeling lonely, or if I'm feeling whatever the case may be, or because somebody's of that kind of character that is a taker rather than a giver, you know. Whatever those situations were, I didn't handle my energy properly. I can feel like I've just been given either a leveling up or a foundation that I didn't have before that's going to help me moving forward. It's going to take time to integrate and embody and to sort of like really settle into this shift, but I can feel it's happened, and it's huge. There's been also a lot of shadow while I've been away, and actually all of these things I talk about have come on the other side of that. When I got to the UK and where my mum is, my mum's town is literally the crossroads between the St. Michael and Mary ley lines. So it's hugely high energy there, but it's a difficult place to be because there is a lot of spiritual activity there, and it's not all good. And it kind of forced me in a lot of ways in terms of dealing with the sort of spiritual side of this journey that I went on, the sort of energies and entities that I sort of came into encounter with. It brought up a lot of childhood memories because, you know, growing up as a child, being very open, you know, psychically, it's a difficult thing. You can attract a lot of unwanted attention that you don't, and there's a lot of trauma around that for me. And for a long time I shut down completely because I didn't want to deal with it. It scared me, and I didn't feel strong enough to handle it. And it feels like I was literally put in a position of facing those childhood fears, facing that shadow, the stuff that in a way I got to step away from as soon as I came to Denmark because the energy is different here. And I really got thrust back into it. You know, it was impossible for me to sleep without a light on. And I usually have a night light, but I had to have a lamp on. I had to have lots of crystal support. I had to have lavender. It was full on. But what it did is it put me in a position where there was no other choice but to look at that. There was no other choice but to face it. There was no other choice but to feel it. And in doing so, I literally felt this energetic purge, I want to say. But it didn't even feel, it was a cleansing, it was definitely a purge, but it was literally like the energy starting from my root chakra and working up. It was almost like whatever fear was blocked and stuck there got shook up, and to the point where it was unavoidable. And I had to sit with the sensations, the bodily sensations of it, without contracting, without going into fear and feeling like, you know, there's some kind of violation of my energy or space, in a way I would have when I was a kid, you know. I literally had to feel it in my body and actually still be expanded and still be calm in myself, even though there was all this chaos being shaken up and being experienced. I'm not even sure if I can really put words to it. And I think in the process there was also a bit of Kundalini rising, because it was almost like energy that was blocked that could not move up suddenly could shift up, because I literally felt it go from my root into my sacral chakra, and it stayed there for quite a while, and then it moved into my sort of solar plexus area and around the belly button, and there's still work going on there, and you know, a little bit has risen into the heart as well, but it's like, but the root and the sacral chakra were the big work. That was the big work. And I tell you, it was almost like every fear I've ever felt that I did not deal with, I felt it once. And it took a lot out of me. I did not get a lot of sleep for at least the first half of my trip, and really pretty much the whole part of my trip. But the first half of my trip I was dealing with the shadow. And in finally getting to this point where it was like unavoidable, and then feeling the shift as this energy finally started working out of me. It's like I'd been carrying this weight, this pain, this fear all my life, and it just finally left. And that's not to say there aren't layers that still need to be processed. There might be other things that need to be gone. But this was the kind of shift that I think I am going to be constantly referring back to, at least in my own personal reflections. You know, I may not need to talk about it much openly in public, but it's the kind of thing that feels once in a lifetime. And since then, the energy in my body's been different. I've been carrying myself different. I've been thinking differently. Even when emotional stuff comes up, it clears quicker, and it doesn't shake me in the same way. I feel more grounded. I feel like the things I would have tolerated before out of lack of self-worth or whatever are just, they're not going to fly anymore. They're not going to stick, you know. It's like I have this space now for more divine energy in me, and so it's like more light, and so I'm not playing on those shadow levels in the way I did before, and so it's not impacting me the same. And I have no idea what my future is, but I can only tell you how it's been these last few weeks, but last few days really. But fundamental shift in me in a way that I can't really describe right now. I've been doing this work, it's more recently, but I did it on a much higher level in this trip, that this work of being my own source of safety. And really it's me and the divine, it's not just me. But rather than clinging to people who I feel can make me feel safe, whoever those people might be, really knowing on a deep level, experiencing on a deep level, that I am my own source of safety. The divine is my own source of safety, and that we are completely interconnected. Wherever I go, I am protected, and everything I experience is for a reason, even the darkest shadow that I've had to face. This is all still integrating. I'm still finding language for this, and I know the fruits of this work are going to ripple out in my life forever. So there may be further reflections that start coming in later on, and maybe I'll share them, maybe I won't. I'll see what feels aligned, but it has been a big battle, and I came in the other side of it, and I'm so grateful. even to have the relief I've had just these last few days. No matter what happens next, it's worth it. But I just have this feeling. This is going to be big. My life is going to change for the better. And I haven't seen anything yet. This is just the beginning. And I can't wait to see what happens next. So, those are just my initial reflections on this trip. We'll see how it unfolds from here. But I'm very excited. And I feel liberated. It's kind of liberating to share this stuff because for such a long time I kind of felt like I lived a double life. I had my everyday life, and then I had my kind of spiritual life, which tended to be very separate, and I kept to myself. And so it's nice to be able to talk more openly about these things and these experiences. And even though I've been talking about them more openly now for the last 4 years, in sort of in some podcasts and some private conversations with friends and family, it's not something I still widely advertise, you know. So there is a part of me that feels that this is a stepping out in a lot of ways, and claiming my experiences and being honest about them. And I'm looking forward to sharing more in the future. But, you know, it's also been a little nerve-wracking because these kind of things, they bring up what I call my witch wounds, which is like the fear of persecution if you are open about these kind of things. And so I feel that a little bit, but it's just a hint, you know. It feels like it's time to sort of embrace being open about my spiritual life, and that will go hand in hand with the offerings that I give beyond just these like interviews. And yeah, it feels like it's timely, like it's time for this stuff to be talked about more. But also it's like it reminds me in sort of like feeling that little bit of trepidation, it reminds me of like my childhood when I didn't get any validation for the things I experienced. They were kind of like written off as an overactive imagination or nightmares and things like that. And it wasn't, of course, until I got older and then I experienced a lot of synchronicities. I experienced other people picking up on the same things I picked up on, being able to get corroboration and validation sort of just through lots of different moments in life, synchronicities, people I've met that helped me sort of build my confidence in realizing that this isn't just in my head, this is something real. And there's 1,000, probably more than 1,000 moments that built that up to a point where I could feel like I could be open about it. And nowadays it's like I'm so in tune with my intuition, there's just like a flow. I don't do a lot of planning. I do book things in my calendar, but I don't do a lot of planning because usually it's a case of waking up and it's like, oh, okay, what am I supposed to do today? And just let my intuition guide me throughout the day. It's such a strong flow now, and it keeps getting stronger and stronger that I'm not really surprised by the places I get led to, the experiences I have. you know, I'm not surprised when my intuition actually pans out, because it happens all the time. And so when it led me to, you need to make a video about this, I just knew it was time. So there's very little part of me that's actually concerned, even though I know I'm putting a big spotlight on something that has held wounds for me in the past. So yeah, but I think it's actually going to be really empowering for me to actually release this into the world. So well, when I was in the middle of it, it was kind of terrorizing. It was like this constant push on my chakras, like something was trying to almost invade my space and sort of induce fear and all of that. And I think where it was trying to sort of like push on me was places where I still had wounds and old blocked energy, negative energy, places where it could kind of hook into. And so I find it very interesting in facing it, letting go of the fear of it, expanding into the experience of it, that I've now released a lot of those places where it could have hooked into. So even though it was really scary, and it also brought up a lot of childhood memories of like times where, you know, I got sort of psychically attacked in the past, or times where I've had to because I used to get like, well, it can still happen where I get night terrors and I get sleep paralysis and stuff like that, and somebody's like attacking me as I come back into my body. And because I do a lot of astral traveling at night, I have done since I was a kid, and so when you come back into your body, that's the point where you can get attacked. And so it reminded me of all these experiences when I was younger, and I had a lot more of that when I was younger than I, you know, necessarily deal with nowadays. But yeah, so it was like putting me back into that place when I was as a little child, almost allowing me to sort of like go into the core of my inner child wound around that, and actually show that there is a way to expand into this, there is a way to let go of fear into this, there's a way of actually just being with it and watching it pass, that there is another side to it, that you can get to the other side of it. That was really healing. It was almost like holding my inner child's hand as we walked through it together, because when I was little it was too much for me. And so that was very empowering to be able to do that. I keep getting reminded of that scene. I don't know if you know the old film Labyrinth that has David Bowie in. And there's that moment where she realizes, you have no power over me. It's kind of reminds me of that, you know. So it, like I say, it was a very liberating experience. But the actual going through it was, it required constant vigilance, constant protecting of my space and my energy, you know, to not allow things to feed off me. It took a lot of energy and effort to do that for as long as was necessary for what needed to come up and release. Once things started to come up and release, there was less there for it to push on and hook into, and so it got easier. But the really deep work that happened at the core of that, it took this constant effort to remain focused, to remain to sort of defend my boundaries, so to speak. So it was very draining. And when you combine that with the lack of sleep that I got, it was very tiring. And but since my sleep has always been a bit messed up because of things like this, I'm used to that. as well as other reasons, you know. But you know, if I was going to lose sleep, I'd rather lose sleep over something that is actually going to progress things forward, you know. So yeah, so it was a big challenge, but I feel grateful to be on the other side of it, that's for sure. Since we've had a few days since the last interview, the chakra work has continued. There's been a lot going on in the solar plexus and belly button. It's like there's been a lot of really stuck energy, like these pockets of really clenched up energy, so tight, that have needed to sort of like be unraveled and released. And so it's like it keeps finding little pockets that need to be released. And so I go through moments where I feel like, it feels clear now, and then moments when suddenly I could feel, oh no, there's another little pocket here that's unraveling now. So there's been a lot of work going on here, but it's not playing so much with fear. It's not like, because the root chakra had a lot of fear blocked and stuck there. So it doesn't have the same impact on me. It's just like a discomfort or pressure that I'm feeling, and then stuff sort of bubbling up, and some of it releasing through the belly button, some of it going down through the chakra and out the root chakra and out that way. Some of it just sort of popping through the surface, almost like it's popping through the skin. But then this morning I could feel it was starting to actually lift into, I feel like there's this band between the top of the solar plexus and the bottom of the heart space. Almost like there was this bottleneck, almost like there was this cord that was tight around there. And I've felt that, you know, as long as I've been aware of. And sometimes it's a bit stronger than others, and other times it feels like it's looser. And I could feel it reach that point. And then I could feel it sort of touch on the edge of the heart space. And I could feel like, oh wow, there is a whole plate of armor here I wasn't even aware of. I think that's a lot to do with a lot of the heartache that I've experienced in my life. And I was like, okay, so that's the next big work. So I can tell that might be quite a big one as well. And I can also tell there's this, I keep feeling like I've got this band around my throat right here. So another band, another bottleneck. So I feel once we get through the heart space, then we're going to have to do another release of this bottleneck here. And then, you know, I have a feeling that sort of like from here to here is the big work now. We'll see how long it takes to work through. Yesterday was, I had to take it mostly as a bed rest day. But there was such huge energy yesterday. It was like, it felt like all my chakras, like all this high vibrational energy was pouring in through my chakras. But it wasn't like, you know, like this, like really antsy energy. It was really peaceful, really calm. And I was just like noticing this energy just fill up into me. And because of the high vibrational nature of it, I was completely blissed out. I kept, you know, going in and out of the bliss state, and I could really feel that this work was really helping to raise my vibration. So it feels very important work that's clearing right now, and you know, as each sort of section clears, I feel a little bit lighter. I've even had moments where I feel a little bit taller. There have been moments where I felt like maybe my lower back, which I've had issues with alignment on, might be realigning, or it feels like the energy is at least. And so, yeah, it's really a lot of work going on in my body right now. And I can't wait to see how it feels like once it's actually worked its way all the way up. So, yeah, so I'm still processing what's been going on, and what is released is still having this impact on me. But I feel like it's like a necessary step, because I feel like my spiritual work needs to start taking more precedence now, that I'm being prepared so that I can support more people. If you would like a personal tarot reading from me, I offer a range of email readings on my website. If you have a dilemma in your relationships, your life purpose, your health, or your abundance, or you would like a message from the forest, from the stars, or from the spirit animals, or if you have a specific question you would like insights on, then I'm here to help if ever you feel called to reach out. Take care.